So here we are again at Pipi Campground and Accessible Trail. We are at June 22nd, 2020, so it's about a month after our previous visit, and so we will see some new plants that are in bloom today. So along this little creeklet that feeds into the middle fork of the Cosumnes, there are these wonderful white-flowered bog orchids, one of 3 orchids that we can see along this trail. This one is Plantanthera dilatata, subspecies Leucostachys. And so we have one on this side of the little creeklet. Actually, we have more than one. We have, let's see, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. And then if we look across this little creeklet, kind of in the shade over there, there we are. There they are. There are a few more. Isn't that lovely? Also, we've got in here the snow plants that we saw in May, the Sarcodes sanguinea. They're across this little way here now. And yeah, there they are. And those are Sarcodes sanguinea, and they're kind of done right now. But in May, they were perfect, so make sure you take a look at the earlier video from May. We also see along here trail plants, and we also see a ginger. Yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to see from here. It's a little ways. Ah, there it is. There it is. There's the ginger with the heart-shaped leaf. Beautiful little creeklet. I love this little spot. So here's the middle fork of the Cosumnes River, right across from that little creeklet that we just saw the orchids along. And I just wanted to show you the wonderful umbrella plant, or Indian rhubarb, Balmera. And it still has some flowers, but now you can see the gigantical leaves that in the fall turn just this gorgeous oranges and reds. It's just so pretty. There we go. More of that umbrella plant. Look how much there is. So in the May video, there were lots and lots of flowers that were up right at this point in the river. And now they've all produced leaves, and they're just covering the entire river. It's wonderful. Now these right next to the river, these kind of bushy things, these are Horsetail Equisetum. I have a sneaking suspicion it's probably Equisetum arvense, but I'm not positive, which would be a common horsetail. And horsetail are distant relatives of ferns. They don't produce any flowers. Here's another stem. What they do is produce spores. And when they produce the spores, it's the spores that reproduce the plant. So this is, they're very ancient. There were horsetails around during the Carboniferous. Very sick. And so my husband Robert here, who is a forester, did some forestry work, and he will explain to you about what this growth is on the tree.
I will. Okay. What we see is commonly called a burl. There are several down here. Some appear to be caused by a fungus, and this one may be by a virus. It's in response to an infection inside the tree. And here's another smaller fruiting body, too hard to get off. But although the top of this tree is alive, it probably won't survive but another year or two maximum.
Here are some Boikinia plants, and these belongs to the saxifrage family, like the umbrella plant that's growing right next to it. There's the big leaves. But these are just in bud. They're not quite flowering yet. I suspect that those flowers will open just probably in about a week or so. Here we have crimson Columbine, Aquilegia Formosa. It's a wonderful member of the Ranunculaceae buttercup family. Is this not gorgeous? Let's see if I can get the camera down here. So you can see the underside. Of course, many of you are familiar with Columbine. This is a very common native Columbine in California. Not too far from the river, here in amongst the rocks. Notice the upward pointing erect spurs. So can you guess who pollinates this? So here is what used to be lotus. Gail, what is the common name? Trefoil. So this is now Horsetail Equisetum, and that's because the leaflets on the leaves are oblong. Go figure. Also right near the river. You can see the river right there. So the common name is streambank birdsfoot trefoil. Also right along the river up here in the rocks is a wild rose. Roses species, and there are some pollinators in there. Yeah, in the flower. So we decided that this is wood rose, Rosa woodsii. Another orchid. So this is called phantom orchid because it's all white. The stem before it blooms is all white, and then most of the flower is white except for part of the column is yellow. And so this is Cephalanthera austini. Here is that dry open area that we saw in May with the Lupinus grayi, just before you get to the wet meadow, which is up ahead over that bridge. It's just in front of us. The delphinium, the larkspur that we saw in May, is gone. It's done. But what is here also is a Gilia. Gilia capitata. Ball-headed Gilia, or blue-head Gilia, because usually the flowers are blue. This one is pretty whitish. And look at the pollinators that this ball-head Gilia or blue-head Gilia is attracting. Butterflies and flies. So in front of us, the beautiful wet meadow with big leaf lupin, Lupinus polyphyllus, all in bloom. Also some Heracleum maximum, or cow parsnip, back in the background there by the trees. And also corn lily, Veratrum californicum. So in the shade here, this beautiful lupin, the big leaf lupin. Look at that one long inflorescence, oh my goodness. It must be 2 feet long. It's gorgeous. On this rock in front of us, we see 3 mortars, where the native Californians that lived here, what a wonderful spot to live. Can you imagine how wonderful it was here? Ground the acorns and other seeds. And this is along the boardwalk that traverses the meadow. Here are the flowers of the corn lily. I'll try to get closer. There's a lot of pollinators hanging out here. Yeah, I'll try to get them in focus. There we go. Look Look at all the bugs that are in here. Here we are in a huge patch of Lilium parvum, alpine lily. It's they're still pretty much in this meadow, but beneath a tree right next to the river. So kind of between the boardwalk and the river. And there are many of these lilies, most of them in bud, like that one. And amongst those lilies, guess what? Another one of those lovely orchids, the white-flowered bog orchid. Here's another one of those lovely lilies, orange with the lovely brown spots.
There's some right here.
Well, another orchid in the dryish slope, upslope from the river. This is Piperia Comaniae, or Coleman's Rhine orchid. It's all green and has grass-like leaves that wither when it gets to be flowering. Isn't that lovely?